Good evening to our Pakistani international viewers. I welcome you to another episode of Views on News with Wajahat Said Khan. Today we will shed a light on a story so huge that it shook the nation's whole IT and media industry, and above all the beliefs of those 200 million people who had invested in them. Yes, we're talking about AXACT, the world's leading IT company, whose offices all across the country were subject to immediate closure, which resulted to unemployment of 5,000 young Pakistanis. Today on our panel, we have invited CEO of AXACT and the controversial Bold Media Group, Mr. Shoaib Ahmed Sheikh. Next to him, we're accompanied by Mr. Karman Abdullah, who's the Deputy Director of Federal Investigation Agency. From Cairo, joining us is the AXACT story breaker, the New York Times Bureau Chief of Egypt, Mr. Declan Walsh. And lastly, we have the wonderful Mrs. Jamshed, who is an ex-AXACT employee. She joins us from Dubai. She left Pakistan due to that threat. I thank you all for joining us exclusively on this 88 news special. Before we begin with the Deputy FIA, our viewers can join us on social media through the hashtag #NationWantsToKnow. Starting with you, Mr. Karman Abdullah, can you tell us about the findings made by the Federal Investigation Agency on the actions alleged against AXACT?
First of all, I would like to thank you for inviting me to the show. As far as your question is concerned, we all know that AXACT has been alleged to be involved in various illegal activities. The sales of their fake degrees is one of their most famous scandals. My department, FIA, has came across evidence that supports the allegations of AXACT being involved in the trading of these fake degrees. This then also resulted in them falsifying their accounts, which means they have been making a lot of money, humongous amount of profits through these illegal sources. $205 million were made through the sales of these fake degrees. FIA, cybercrime have recovered 30 terabytes of deleted data from their headquarters, and there's yet more to come. Moreover, Board of Revenue has issued many notices to AXACT which seeks more details on advertising, franchises and sales tax details on their subsidiaries. Wajahat, let me tell you, whatever they have been doing is in violation and against the corporate governance, corporate social responsibility, and it's a shame on Pakistan and its people by AXACT.
Thank you, Mr. Karman. I believe our viewers have got your point. My next question is directed to Mr. Shoaib Ahmed Sheikh. Do you understand the gravity of these allegations, and how much credibility would you give to them, especially the allegations of you secretly earning profit through the porn industry?
Wajahat, I'm honored and privileged to be present here tonight. And let me thank you for providing me with this opportunity to show you how unfounded, baseless, and unprecedented these accusations are. Wajahat, Shoaib Ahmed Sheikh is not here to merely represent himself, but to represent those competent and capable AXACTians, those young Pakistanis who have been forced out of their jobs and are down to the streets of Pakistan to fight for this day, to provide for their families. Before I get to your question, let the nation know that those employees were, are, and will always be the future and the brightest future of Pakistan. Getting to your question and getting to the point, Wajahat, let me ask you, isn't it surprising that these allegations against AXACT only came to light when AXACT was on the verge of launching Pakistan's biggest media house, Pakistan's biggest media group? Our name and reputation has been dragged through mud, and we have been labeled as a malicious organization. Although we have always served Pakistan, for Pakistan. And the media groups portrayed us as guilty even before anything came to screens. And as far as your claims of us being involved and related to the porn industry are concerned, that has not been proved by the courts of Pakistan. So let's not make the people of Pakistan feel as if we are guilty for those particular accusations. As far as the Deputy Director of FIA is concerned and his remarks are concerned, how can we forget that FIA couldn't even bring an official vehicle to collect the hard evidence from the AXACT offices, which they had to take back to their offices. I label FIA, the Federal Investigation Agency, and its Deputy Director incompetent. FIA is an incompetent institution which lacks the basic sense on how to handle sensitive hardware, especially when it's being transported through public means? What credibility do they even possess on how to analyze that hardware when they expose critical and such confidential exact data to such high risks? I completely disregard and reject any findings and claims made by FIA, and I demand our hardware should be presented to a more suited institution rather than this thuggish FIA which rates any company in Pakistan it wants on the basis nothing but just baseless.
Mr. Shoaib, I'll have to interrupt you, but we have to take a commercial break. Stay tuned. We'll be right back with more matter on this issue. Welcome back, viewers. We have heard the FIA and Mr. Shoaib Ahmed Sheikh has got a fair share to say. We will now find out Mr. Declan Walsh's view on this scandal. Mr. Walsh, can you hear me? Mr. Walsh, you brought this news to the world. Please share your findings with us.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Khan, for including me in this debate. Mr. Khan, AXACT's story is a broad and far-reaching investigative report and not a table story. This fraudulent IT company and its CEO, Mr. Shoaib, have questioned the prestige and standing of the New York Times at several occasions after getting exposed. I assert that these are not allegations but are facts supported by evidence. Initially, I received a phone call from an AXACT employee in Karachi who provided me with the links related to the trading of fake university degrees. Therefore, to complete the investigation, I traveled to the UAE and stayed there to gather evidence for 3 months. Luckily, in the UAE, I came across another witness who had bought a fake degree for $30,000 US, and I also met with a number of former AXACT employees and simultaneously continued investigating their online activities. This made me understand the height of fake degree business AXACT kept in their head office in Pakistan and subsequently established several companies in other countries. AXACT was building Pakistan's biggest media empire and was offering 3 times salaries than an average Pakistani media group. This has also raised our concern as how an IT company like AXACT has sufficient funds to build a media house as big as BBC and CNN. I completely agree with the findings of the FIA. I find them true and precise, and I would also like Mr. Shoaib to come back into reality and take responsibility for what they've done and should be ashamed of it, as they didn't only tarnish their reputation but also the names of the innocent employees working for them.
Mr. Declan Walsh,
AXACT
please.
is
Mr.
a
Declan
symbol
Walsh.
of shame for Pakistan.
Wajahat. How can I or the masses of Pakistan believe in what this man is saying? This man, named Declan Walsh, ex-bureau chief, New York Times, Pakistan, was thrown out of Pakistan. He was deported and blacklisted under Category A by the Interior Ministry of Pakistan. For being involved in anti-Pakistan false reporting, he was thrown out. And we should not forget that. It's not long ago that happened. And it was proved by the government of Pakistan that he was involved in the propagandas against Pakistan. After all this, do you still think I owe him an answer? Do you still think I even owe this man named Declan Walsh an answer? History tells us enough about his credibility as a conspiracy theorist who encourages propaganda against Pakistan and its patriotic people.
Our next guest, Mr. Jamshed, is an ex-AXACT employee and the main whistleblower in this case. Mr. Jamshed, my question to you is that how evident were illegal actions of AXACT and why hasn't it been brought before?
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Wajid. I would love to help those who had been scammed by AXACT. Besides investigating AXACT Pakistan, I also demand authorities to investigate AXACT's Dubai-based company, which was located in Dubai Internet City. Mr. Wajahat, I was employed as a quality assurance auditor at AXACT. I had resigned from AXACT the moment I came across to their fraudulent activities. My job at AXACT includes listening to phone calls between the sales agents and also the customer. And here's the catch. Our sales agent use fake names and claim that they are professors from different universities to the clients. And as far as I know, there were 370 top universities whose fake degrees was being offered by AXACT. As I was able to listen to those phone calls, there is this one woman, a UAE-based woman, who within 3 years' time had bought 18 fake degrees. And for Mr. Shoaib Ahmad Sheikh, is he watching this? FIA already captured materials from AXACT that involve the fake stamps of US Department of Education and digital signature of Secretary State John Kerry. Isn't this enough to admit your own fraud?
Thank you, Mrs. Jamshed, for your valuable input. I honestly think there isn't anything else left to say when your own employee has confessed against you and the crimes committed by your very own company. Our aim today was to bring the truth to our viewers and to this nation, and I think we've achieved it today. I would like to thank all our guests and viewers for joining us. Until next time, this is your host, Wajad Said Khan, signing off.